Hey there, you guys. So this past weekend was the Marvel Tokon open beta for PlayStation 5, PC, etc. They just let people kind of go crazy with the game. It wasn't a complete game because there was a couple characters not in there. Like off my head, Carnage, Punisher. I feel like there's a couple people I'm missing. But for the most part, majority of the complete game was there. We were able to play online. We were able to go to training mode. People were able to unlock more of this game. If you guys weren't really following Marvel Tokon too much, this game is a Marvel fighting game developed by Arc System Works, the developers behind like Guilty Gear and stuff. This game is one of my most highly anticipated games for 2026. I'm a big fighting game fan. I'm a big Marvel fan. I grew up playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I played Marvel superheroes. I played X-Men Chosen the Atom. Like I grew up on fighting games. I grew up on specifically a lot of Capcom fighting games. So seeing this new approach to a Marvel fighting game with more of the Arc System style is pretty it's pretty refreshing, I would say. It definitely took a bunch of different turns that I don't think a lot of people expected. I think people were expecting more of a traditional Marvel tag fighter, like you would get from an MVC2 or even a Marvel Infinite or something. But what Arc System is doing is very refreshing for the tag genre. It's essentially making this game holistically very different than any other fighting game on the market, in my opinion. I mean, there's definitely pulls from things like Guilty Gear, definitely pulls from things like Dragon Ball Fighters, but a lot of it is still very, very unique, very, very fresh. And in this video, I kind of just want to dive into my thoughts of overall of Marvel Tokon, the beta, some potential problems that I see coming, but overall, a lot of the highlights, right? Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, etc. down below. Let me know. And with all that, let's get into the video. All right, so the first thing that we can't really discuss too much because it's pretty obvious, but I definitely can't get through this video without really, really glazing the art style of this game, the way this game looks, how amazing the like comic book, like manga style art looks with these Marvel characters. I love how Arc System was able to take characters that are so, so universally known, like Captain America, Iron Man, and making them their own, right? Characters like Wolverine, Spider-Man still look like Wolverine, Spider-Man, but with their own new flavor, their own new taste that's not too different, but different enough to make it feel, again, very unique. And I feel like that kind of is what makes this game so cool, in my opinion, is that so much is so familiar into so many different things, yet they're still finding new ways to make this feel uniquely its own, right? There's a bunch of battle stages that you would imagine are in pretty much any Marvel game, right? Things like Avengers Towers, the X-Men Mansion, New York City, etc. And somehow they're able to make it still feel like the first time I've ever experienced a battle setting like this, right? And again, obviously, other fighting games have done, New York City, even Marvel vs. Capcom 3 has one of my favorite like New York City backgrounds with the Daily Bugle, etc. But these backgrounds, again, they're so special in the way that they're drawn. It looks like background to a manga. It looks background to a comic book. It looks like that style that again makes it pop right immediately once you see the game. Up to like the fluid motions, there's a lot of noisiness that somehow when you're locked in, it all starts to make sense, when you're, tagging in and out characters, when you're breaking walls, when you're doing etc. All these things that could potentially have gone so bad work so well, and Arc System made good use of things like hit stop, made good use of like changing frames, character animations. They really understand how to make dynamic fighting games and make it easy to digest. I think like if you're not used to seeing something as crazy as a Marvel fighting game, then yeah, you're probably going to be lost for a while. But for a lot of us who are like deep in the weeds with this, it's I want to say pretty seamless as far as the way it follows. Me for when I play Miss Marvel, and one of the animations that at first threw me off was like I think it's like her down unique ability where she kind of dodges bullets by bending her body, and it's a really cool way to kind of like get around uh, random pokes, random projectiles being thrown. It was really cool, but for a while it was throwing me off animation wise because I would dodge certain attacks and again, it was hard to kind of digest what I was looking at, but it was eventually once I kind of like adjusted my eyes to what I'm seeing, a lot of it made sense. And again, mad props to Arc System for being able to pull off such a dynamic art style with a bunch of moving parts and variables and making it not too cluttered, not too messy, and overall really working for me. If we're to dive into the actual combat system, how that works, it's really cool. So it's a 4v4 fighting game, kind of, right? So you can play this game as a tag fighter, where you can tag in and out seamlessly between your characters, or you can do what a lot of people I noticed were doing in the beta, where we're really just kind of like dialing in on one character and utilizing our other characters as assists. For me, my team that I kind of stuck with was I had Miss Marvel. That's my main character. That's my actual character. I pretty much was carried by Miss Marvel, to be honest. I would use Captain America as like my projectile assist. So every time I tap regular X, I would be able to throw out the Captain America shield. That would help me out a lot when I needed to, help close the gap between me and my enemies. I had Blade as my anti-air assist. So an anti-air assist, for you guys who don't know, it's anyone who's jumping in the air. It strikes upwards. That way, it kind of brings them down, so it makes jumps not safe. And then I would use Magic as I don't know what you'd call it, an AOE assist, I guess. He would just do like this big fire thing that'll blast everywhere, and that was really useful. And ultimately, that team worked really, really well for me. I was able to do pretty well in the lobbies, I think. One of the things that I noticed was that's going to become kind of hard, I think, for me is learning more characters because yes, it's you can play this game as a one-person fighting game with assists, but it does kind of limit you to some of the things that are gonna you can make you struggle, right? So, for example, there's one thing where if you do your super and you hold X, you can tag in the next person who to do their super, but then you're left with that person. So there's a couple moments where I would do that, and then I'd have Captain America on the field, and there's a huge gap in my skill between Miss Marvel and Captain America, which was pretty problematic, and I'd have to like tag out pretty quickly, but sometimes you're not just given the opportunity to tag out, right? So I would have to kind of like hold my own for a little bit with Captain America, which was unique. So that is one of the things that even though this game can be played with one main fighting character and then having assists, I would definitely recommend picking up at least a decent amount of skill with some of the other people in your team, just because you never know when you need to tag out, when you need to switch out, especially with characters that knew how to handle my Miss Marvel. When I would run into people who just were not having my Miss Marvel shenanigans, they were breaking me down pretty quickly. I needed another option, and unfortunately, I just didn't have the other option. Right. Granted, this was only 3 days, and it was the beta. I didn't really want to like dive too much into every character. I kind of just wanted to make sure I gravitate towards one. Um, I just do suggest that if you do plan on playing this game as like a single one person fighting game, then you should definitely at least invest some time in having some type of a backup, just so you're not stranded out there like I was. A couple of things that make this game really cool is the way that the progression system works. So throughout the match, you will start gaining more of your superheroes. So originally on off the rip, you have your first character and your first assist. Then throughout the match, you'll kind of start collecting more of the other characters. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. The easiest way is if you lose, then you get a new character added. So if you lose 2 rounds, you get your full team off rip. But also, if you're able to like wall splat or break a wall, then you'd gain a new partner into your team. So there's like a lot of times in round one where my main goal is just break the wall. Like I want my full team from the get go without having to lose a round, because there are certain times where I'd make it all the way to the third round, but I didn't get a single wall break. So I still only have Miss Marvel, Captain America. Meanwhile, my opponent has all his full team assembled. So they have a lot more, to pull from than I do. A lot more resources, a lot more buckets to pull from, more assists, which made it a lot more challenging. So it's one of those type of things like I do recommend trying to assemble your team as quickly as you can. That way you have access to all of your resources as soon as possible. That being said, obviously, you don't want to just allow wall breaks. So, say steering clear from the walls is, pretty much the goal, especially for the first couple rounds. Being cornered in this game isn't too bad because there's a lot of things you can do. Like you can quick recovery out of it. So, like for example, if someone knocks you to the ground, you can quick recovery out of there. You can break it. So like there's like a combo breaker. I forget exactly what it's called, but essentially, if you know, you counter the first attack with your for PlayStation, it's square and X that calls in your assist, and that breaks any momentum that your enemy might have. So doing stuff like that is really good for making sure that you don't get, stuck in a corner, making sure that you don't let the enemy build momentum. This game is pretty. I don't want to say defeating, but when your enemy has hella momentum, it can get pretty disparaging. Like you kind of feel like there's not a lot you can do. I noticed in the lobby, a lot of people were struggling with the Green Goblin that was just mashing projectiles, and a lot of people didn't know how to deal with it. Um, so it's one of those type of things like the game gives you a lot of the resources to deal with pretty much most situations. It's just making sure you're utilizing those resources. One of my biggest gripes, I think, with the game, the connection was pretty bad, primarily with mainly PC players. I heard there was an issue with PC, but I don't really know exactly what that entailed. But yeah, every time I'd run into a PC player, most of the time it was pretty bad connection. Most PlayStation 5 players were pretty good. I don't like Arc System's lobby systems. I hate that it's an avatar queuing up with arcade. I don't know. It's just not for me. I understand why people like it. I just don't like it. They do give you the option to quick connect, but every now and again there was like lulls in between matches that kind of sucked, so I didn't like that as much. I didn't dive too much into ranks or into casual, which probably could have eliminate the lobby. I just noticed that whenever I did queue up to ranked or casual, I didn't get as much matches as if I was just queued up in the lobby. So that's kind of like the trade off, I guess. Overall, though, the game is amazing. I had so much fun playing this game. I look forward to the official release and, really, really diving deep into some of the characters, and learning more than just one character. Because, yeah, I really, really, I just spent these 3 days getting as good as I can with one and utilizing the assists to help benefit that one character. But I would like to see, what else I can do with this, how far I could take this. I think there's a huge skill ceiling here, and I'm excited to see what people can do. I haven't looked too deep into what some of the professionals were doing. Like, I know there's a tournament going on. I didn't really look too much into that, but I'm kind of curious to dive into that and see what that looks like. Overall, though, I mean, the game, there's not a whole lot bad about it. I definitely think there's some people that won't gravitate towards this game because they probably wanted like an actual tag fighter from Marvel, or they just wanted something more, I don't know, more like a Street Fighters, I guess. There's always those people that really just want every game to be Street Fighters, but it is what it is. Overall, those are my final thoughts. Let me know down below your guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one.